with us today. So we're really, really excited to have you all here with us. And so we can learn about what a sou-sous is, why it's important, why it is one of Black society's most long-standing way of participating in cooperative economics. So I'm really, really excited to get this conversation started. I'd like to start with each of you, each of our special guests, telling us a little bit about yourself, how you came to being a sou-sous, how long you've been doing it, and whether you're an architect, if you're looking for people to join your sou-sous. So let's go ahead and start with Mr. Thomas, since you're probably been doing this the longest. So go ahead and let's get started.
Okay, I'll do whatever the host says, but my mom, I just wanted to know for the public, I was told that ladies will always go first, but I'm giving that up.
Yes,
so,
please, just for today.
Just for today. All right, I got permission, y'all. So my name is John Thomas. I live here in Philadelphia, and I also split my time between a place in San Francisco. I am a business owner of 22 years, and I run a company that does consulting, coaching, and we also manage short-term rentals in Center City, Philadelphia. I was introduced to the sou-sous in April by a friend of mine who called me, and a person I coach, who asked me to take a look at a presentation that was starting in like 20 minutes. And because of who she is and her husband, I did, because she wanted to get my feedback on whether or not this was a legitimate conversation to be in. And, that was April 10th. Of 2020, and I've been involved in building a modern day sou-sous model, which is one of the many models that I've learned is in the public view right now. It's become very popular, and I've been building flowers in that model since April, and I'm proud to say that I've accumulated about 50 positions on different flowers all across the country that are in different states of development, but mostly I stay in what's called the water, being gifted on a weekly basis, multiple times.
Thank you so much for that. All right, Dadrian.
Hi, Empress. Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Dadrian Ellington. I'm a mother, I'm a federal employee, I'm a veteran, and I'm a student of life. I've been participating in the sou-sous since May, so it's about 2 months for me now. I was invited by a great friend of mine that I've known since the 6th grade, and like Mr. Thomas said, based on my trust of her, I went ahead and listened to the presentation and came right on board because I saw the potential in the system. So I've been on board for about 2 months. I have a position for myself and one for my daughter. And your question was, am I an architect? I would say so, because I'm continuously helping those friends and family that I've brought in to build their flowers and close them. So, and I'm here to help answer questions and dispel any myths and help us reduce the fear of sou-sous and collective savings. There's so much potential in it. So it's been about 2 months for me, but I'm really excited about it because I'm a beneficiary and I believe in it. So I'm glad to be here to help out with this.
Thank you so much for that, Dadrian. Arden? Sis, are you there? Let's see. She may have gotten disconnected. Oh, yeah. Oh, here she goes. Okay, let's get her back in here. Hey, sis. You back in?
Back in, yes.
All right, wonderful. So we were just doing introductions. If you could please tell us a little bit about who you are, about how you came to be a part of the sou-sous, how long you've been a part of the sou-sous, and yeah, those are some of the main things, and then we'll get right into the conversation.
Okay, good. My name is Arden, as Ayana has introduced me. I'm in Philadelphia. I came in through the Sou Sou through my dear friend Shayla in Connecticut, and that Sou Sou happened to be with John Thomas here in Philadelphia, and that was May 24th or 27th, around there when I came in as a fire. And since then, I co-manage a group another flower. So I basically am now in two sou-sous, so to speak, where I'm on a flower with John Thomas's group and one of my own.
Thank you very much for that. You know, I decided to facilitate this conversation and host it because I had heard about sou-sous in the past, but I just recently, I was talking to Dadrian, and, you know, she was telling me about it. She was really excited about it. And I said, you know, so I started to talk to other people about it, and I realized like how miseducated and misinformed people were about what a sou-sous is, how it operates. And then I came to learn as well that so many things have changed since we first started doing sou-sous. So I wanted an opportunity to provide a platform and an opportunity for people to learn and understand the importance of it, how you can get involved, why you should get involved, and what has changed since the sou-sous of the past, because there's like a lot of ignorance around it. And I've even heard it called a pyramid, and I'm like, it's not a pyramid. Like, this has nothing to do with a pyramid. It has nothing to do with any one person like holding the pot and things like that. Like, so many things have changed since the digital era has really started to boom. So I want to talk a little bit about what some of the differences are between past sou-sous and current sou-sous. So anybody could jump in and speak on that.
In my experience, historically, it's nothing new. The sou-sous is nothing new. What has changed is the parameters within which people work. The reason that people come into them. Historically, they were typically formed by families and communities with a particular investment purpose to go into. So people were closely related. Now we're in this, you know, digitized world where some of the challenges around the sou-sous, like, you know, it was only limited to family, is removed, where we can participate in these things with communities across the world. You know, so we have technology that helps us to sort of, you know, be closer and operate in an international community, like globally in this sort of community. So what has changed is, you know, maybe the purpose for it, and how. John, are you preparing to pull up like the differences that compare the two today?
I can.
Okay, so you know, we can share something that represents the differences between the modern and the traditional versions, and how they change in terms of how they work, the process of it.
Absolutely, I would love that. Go ahead, John, and share your screen whenever you're ready.
So this is, you know, and you know, just to piggyback with what you asked in the question is like, how did they come about? You know, the history of them is very significant. It originated in Yoruba with their African ancestors who brought it over during the slave period. And it was the only way they could collect things, right? They had to have a way of building some kind of collective, cohesive way of surviving in this new environment. And then it just morphed into a savings vehicle that our communities have used. So, you know, the sou-sous now has been adopted across all different continents and countries. There are sou-sous in Japan. There are just different names for them, right? And so when we talk to people about what we're doing now, all we've done is modernize what has already been in existence for hundreds of years and what has been brought to our communities, mostly by African and West Indian communities, right? And now we're just now getting a conversation going in what I would call our, you know, people of color, right, of the 21st century. So the modern family share group, which is what we all are now participating in, versus traditional share groups, there were a lot of things in the traditional sou-sous that were outdated, that needed to be upgraded. And again, you know, we've been able to take it to that next level. So when people hear about a sou-sous, if they've ever known it, specifically West Indies and Caribbean folks, and any other community of color, they're using this, right? So, but there's one holder of the money, they call it the banker. That's outdated, because if you know anything about money, it had to be a trusted individual to hold everybody's money and make sure everybody got their gift or their payout, whatever they called it at that time. And sometimes people weren't as, how should I say it, integrous as they needed to be. So there were times where people put in their monies in pots and they didn't see it again. Contributions traditionally were made weekly. Everybody puts a couple $100 or $1,000, whatever, depending on their culture, every single week. Okay, the length of cycle period was way too long. I just recently heard from a Jamaican woman who joined our group and said her period was 19 months before she received her gift, right? It can be anywhere from 10 weeks, 10 months or longer, because it depends on how many people are in the cycle before you receive your particular gift. And whatever you put in is exactly what you got out, which means you only got the amount of gifts or payout that was based on what each person was contributing at a spirit, at agreed upon amount. And then there's no residual to that process. You weren't going to receive it again and again, because what happens traditionally with sou-sous is that they came together for, like Arden said, a period or a purpose, and then they were no longer. Maybe the group disbanded. Maybe they went on to doing other things, or they might come back, but it'd be different folks participating. Now, within this new updated modern sou-sous, the one, you're going to hear a lot more about it from especially me, because this is the only model I operate inside of with the people that we invite. There's no holder of any money. Everyone is being gifted to the person using fintech models, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle. We can now send money directly to the person, so nobody needs to touch anybody else's money. No one needs to be held accountable for anybody else's gifts that are being provided. It gets sent automatically to that person, and we're really grateful that those vehicles exist. In our model, there's a one-time contribution only. You only need to contribute a certain amount of money. In our case, it's $500, one time. But the requirement of building this modern sou-sous is that you actually are required to bring in an additional 2 people to do the exact same thing. Sou-sous, by definition, are a collective of like-minded individuals who are committed to either gifting and being gifted by others. So if you're not someone who is that type of person who wants to be a part of a collective, build a community structure, and are committed to, number one, gifting, and then by virtue of you doing that, being gifted in return, then the modern sou-sous is probably not a vehicle you want to be participating in either, because it does require you to actually identify other people you'd want this blessing or this gift to go to. And then we are based on a 4-position or a 4-week cycle period. So there are, different, when people say it's a pyramid, first of all, there's no way it could be, because even the analogy that we use is of a flower. In some cases, it's a circle, right? So there's flowers are being used as visual, and the cycles are based on the elements of fire, air, earth, and water. And so everyone gets to move from each position cycle once every week. Usually in our group, it's on a Sunday. So rotation Sunday happens. So people move from the fire when they actually begin with their one-time $500 gift. And then they have an entire 6 days up till Saturday at midnight to identify 2 other people that they're going to bring into the sou-sous who will do the exact same thing that they were asked to do. And then the following week, they go to the earth position. They're encouraging people. They're like letting folks know it's worth it. And then by the 4th week, which is 22 days in our game, you are now in the water position, and there are 8 fires that will be gifting you $500 each at a total of $4,000. And then you're expected to take the original $500, and this is what makes ours really amazing, because not only is it a shorter time period that you're receiving a gift that's greater than what you put in, but you're also now receiving it on a residual basis, because you now put $500 back into the sou-sous, you go back into the flower position where you originally started, and you cycle through again in another 22 days. It's like an infinity circle. You just keep getting watered. And so again, it not only puts, a significant amount of money in people's hands in a 22-day period, but it gives them the confidence of knowing that that 22 days is going to happen every 22 days. And so, if you're in the sou-sous that, that participate at that level, whether it's at $100 level or whether it's a $500 level or a $5,000 level, which is where we're building to, you actually can and are eligible to receive gifts up to $15,000 per person per year by IRS government tax publication 599 standard. It's how the wealthy transfer wealth to other people in their family without having to incur gift taxes. The laws have been there for years. The amount increased over time. In 2020, the amount is a total of $11,580,000 in your lifetime without ever having to pay tax. So if you ask me who's been sou-souing longer or taking advantage of the model, right? We as a people of color have had sou-sous in our history, but other people adopted, call it something else. They call it gift tax. And so then they give their kin and their kin's kin the ability to transfer up to $11,500,000 without ever having to pay tax. So if that's a scam, then that's what I define scam. And I posted it up, is someone that's confused about money. That's the acronym that scam is. So if you understand how money works and how wealthy people move money without having to incur all the taxes or having to have any issues with, looking over their shoulder, they don't call it a scam. They don't actually live that way. They live in abundance. They actually have the ability to transfer wealth, and we should be able to do the same thing. But first, we got to build it, and the sou-sous gives us the model for our communities to do that in a very simple way.
Thank you so much for that, John. I really appreciate it. You touched on a lot of different topics that I feel like are more advanced than where we're kind of at right now, but you made some very important points about how people's attitude towards money, towards things like cooperative economics, like the sou-sous, and I really do appreciate that. Now, you were breaking down the different positions when a person comes into a sou-sous and what that looks like, the fire, the water, and different things like that. So I wanted to give Dadrian an opportunity to show what that flower kind of looks like and break down the different positions for those of us who may be ignorant and don't have the background to understand some of the terminology that you use. Dadrian, are you ready to present your flower?
Yes. Let me share my screen. Okay. Do you see my screen?
No.
No?
Let's see. Not yet.
Share your insight. I click share.
Take your time. At the bottom, usually it's a little thing that says share screen, and then from there you can just, okay. There
Are you seeing it now?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so with regard to the terminology he was using, the 4 positions on the flower, we're on different teams, but it's the same concept.
Can you do me one favor, Dadrian, and just make your screen full so everybody can see it really super clearly?
I don't know. It is full on my screen.
Oh, I see.
Maybe I can zoom in.
All right, yeah, just do the best you can. Perfect.
Is that better?
Oh, they can't see all the steps, but if you go back to where you were and then people can pinch out, they
there
can
you
pinch
go.
out.
That's fine.
See.
That's fine.
There you go.
Are you guys hearing me? I'm not hearing anything.
Yes, we can hear you.
And do you see my screen?
Yes.
And are you able to see the flower and the step
Oh,
one?
hold on. Wait a minute. I don't think we see your screen. We see now. I just see your the picture that goes up when you're not screen. Oh, actually, I do see your screen. Does everybody else see her screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, we see it.
Okay, so the positions she was referring to were on this lotus flower, and the fire position is when you first come in. That's the first position, week 1. The person in the air position invited you to join, and at the fire you gift your $500 to the person in the water position. Then once this flower closes, you move to week 2 when you are now the air. It is your turn now to invite 2 people. Once this flower closes, you move to week 3, which you're in the earth position. You're just helping the person you brought in, who are now your heirs. You're helping them to bring their 2 people and to understand the system. Week 4, you move to the water position, and that's when you receive your gifts. So like he said, you receive gifts from the 8 fires on your flower. And those are the 4 positions and the 4 weeks he was referring to, week 1, 2, 3, 4. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I mean, yeah. I mean, it sounds like you definitely broke it down. If anybody else has anything to add to what Dadrian has presented, please do.
Yeah, I would just open it up for questions if there's clarity, because her visual was clear about how you're placed upon coming, and how you're placed and move through the cycle.
Absolutely. In terms of questions, I kind of want to keep that a little bit for the end. If anybody does have questions, please write them down as we make our way through, and we'll come back and we'll answer any of those, because I have more questions that I want to ask you all, and I'd like you to cover. Dadrian, thank you so much for covering that part of the presentation. And Arden, if you don't mind taking a second to show how this isn't a pyramid and the difference, that would be wonderful.
Okay, so this is one of the questions that we get often from people, and before going through it, I kind of just want to emphasize that language is often the deterrent or the challenge that we may be having. When you look at the traditional version, and you're talking to someone from the Caribbean as a very specific example, when they hear Sou Sou, they know how it worked the old school way. So what's happening now is a little bit, it's different, so John was able to, show you and express the differences. And with that, I try to be mindful of language. I was thinking about Don Miguel Lewis's book today, the 4 Agreements with being impeccable with your words, because it matters, and we get hung up on words. So I find myself referring to it lately as a gift sharing community. And then we can emphasize in those dialogues that, it's a version, of the Sou Sou, because people who are familiar with the traditional understand the differences in what's happening now. And that's why they may say, well, that's not a Sou Sou. All right. So I just wanted to share that. And then how is it not a scam or a multi-level marketed scheme or a pyramid? It's because neither of those types of scams are sustainable. What this particular gift sharing community or gift sharing system, modern day Sou Sou, does is it allows for something to not bottom out. It allows for this process to not bottom out, which makes the importance of the members who join you in your community of flowers important, because we emphasize in our groups that it's the people are more important than the $500 gift contribution. Because the people move the abundance, the people move the gifts. So without the people, there are no gifts. So the people sustain it, and therefore we invite our trusted people of like mind. We invite people we love and care about, people that we might be growing with, people we're on investment teams together. People who have like-minded goals. People we know who are in need of help as we go through this economic time of uncertainty and unstable, economy. So, we these schemes and these pyramids and so on and so forth, they recruit. They recruit because the top is gaining from those on the bottom. In a sou-sous, a gift sharing community, everyone receives the same thing. There's no one who is receiving more than those at the bottom who are, scrounging to bring in people so that they can make so they can get whatever bonus that's usually dangled, in the recruitees, eyes if they continue to bring more people in. In the Ponzi scheme, the caveat is the return to, you have a group of investors. The new investors are the ones who feed the earliest investors. So they're given some opportunity that costs a wealth of money. It is an investment, which our modern day sou-sous is not an investment. It's a savings plan. It's social banking. You're not investing except in yourself. So the language is different there. Here, these people are investing something. The real estate situation is the clearest example that comes to mind for me, where people are buying into this program of how to become this real estate guru, broker, realtor. But they have to invest thousands of dollars, and then whoever came before them is being paid some sort of return on what the new people have paid in. Also in these schemes, the last piece is that there's no refund policy. There isn't even in the gifting community, but you don't lose anything the way the model works. There's nothing to lose, so therefore there's nothing to refund. And then as you go into different groups, there may be other guidelines that ensure that there's no loss. So then that's when, like anything, a doctor, a bank, any service you're going after, or any community you're looking to join, you do your research, and, the last thing I would add about the trust factor is, because the pyramid scheme is a trust. It's a trust issue where people don't want to, enter these because of the scheme. If you are connecting with, your tribe, you still, even if this is an international piece, you're still dealing with abundance and energy and currency and money. And you need to connect with people who share the same vibration, goals, ideas, the same definitions of trust, honor, integrity. And, you want to look at that and make sure you're joining people who are authentically in that same vibrational frequency with you. And that is the only difference between what works and what doesn't work. But it's not the system at all. There's no loss at all in this modern day system if the people are winners.
Absolutely.
And,
thank you so much for that, Arden. I'm so glad you touched on the part about energy and who you bring into it with you, because I think sometimes when you're dealing with someone that has a lot of resistance towards what you are trying to tell them about, bring them into, or whatever it may be, that you need to leave those people alone and allow those who have true interest to join you, and they're ready to join you in your journey when it comes to the sou-sous and the cooperative economics. I think that's like one of the major things is that energy wise and making sure that everybody's on the same frequency with you. Because one of my questions is that because I even Dadrian and I were somewhere and we were talking about the sou-sous a little bit, and there was ignorance in the room in regards to what it was, how it operates and different things like that. And the energy just wasn't really flowing. And she was just like, basically she's not trying to convince anybody of anything because she knows exactly how she feels about, what she's doing. And I wanted to talk a little bit kind of about that, because what makes a sou-sous a good sou-sous? How do you choose a team? And Dadrian, I wanted you to speak a little bit to that, and then I have another question for you all after that.
Okay. The sou-sous that I know of, I'm Jamaican, and we used to participate in a partner. So that was family, friends, and I believe my parents were invited to participate in that. So, and that was the old school way. I was invited to participate in this as well, friends and family share. So I believe the best way is to be invited. I'm sure there's a way to start your own, but this system is just so locked in and perfect that it's required, like it's already done. So I was invited, and I think that's the best way, is to be invited by someone who's like-minded and shares the same vision. And when I was thinking of who to invite to participate with me, I thought of the same thing: people who I can trust and who understand the concept of community economics, of trying to decrease the wealth gap, and just sharing an amazing opportunity for friends and family that you care about to earn additional funds every month. Everyone needs money, you know, and money is a funny thing. You want to work with people who you trust, you know, so those factors were what played into who I would invite to participate in the Sou-Sous with me. And as far as getting in, it's basically an invite only kind of thing. I'm sure there's another way, but you have to be invited in and be willing to communicate with your team and have the 500 available, and know 2 people that are like-minded, worthy, that are willing to play, you know, do the work. It requires communication and sharing. So that's not too much to ask for, to be able to have a residual income. You know, we all need that second or third stream of income to be able to be successful. And I'm just grateful. I always just tell my friends and family how thankful and grateful I am for this opportunity, because it has blessed me so much. So, and I just want to bless others the same way.
Yes, I love that. And you know, thank you so much for that answer, because I think that you hit the nail on the head with in regards to what my question was. Now, my next question is, did anybody else have anything to say towards that question?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think we all could add something to it.
Okay, well, just please go right ahead.
Well, in the interest of time, I'm hanging back, but I promise you, there's many different ways to sou-sous, right? And you know, one of the questions we asked people, and it came from one of the folks that weren't people that I knew and trust. They came from a Facebook invite, right? So when you build, you know, I'm a big person on systems, and I build systems for other clients in my coaching business, and I build it for the Sou-Sous as well. So when you have a skill that you can bring to the table that you know works, it's like a Henry Ford, you know, you can say what you want about his racist tendencies, but he learned how to line up people in a line and them putting their part to building a car and making more cars faster than any other company. And that's how he became wealthy, right? So in this same realm, you know, from, you know, even the worst history, you can build on that history and find ways to duplicate systems that work. So for me, it was about figuring out how to build a system that was, you know, simple and easy for anyone and their brother to identify 2 people and have them know that they could do it and have the confidence to do it, whether they knew them for 10 years, like I did with the people I started with, or 10 minutes. And so if you have the ability to create something like that, you can actually have people be a yes to an opportunity that they see in less than an hour, and then have their people be a yes to the opportunity in the same hour. So that's how we over here have built an entire group of flowers that extends all across North America. And I'm proud of that, because it is the system, and that system works. And as long as it works for one, it can work for everyone the same way. And all we've done is made it, you know, work inside of modern day Sou-Sous.
Yes, that's so good. So now, would someone have to join your Sou-Sous in order to learn a couple of those tactics with how to engage people in the conversation? I know for myself, I use my podcast platform in order to engage people in, because like you say, you use whatever your strengths are. You know, my strength is connecting with people through my work, you know, and as well as the podcast in the group that I manage. And if you wanted to share a couple different pointers on how to engage someone, maybe like 2 pointers on how to engage someone that you maybe don't know, I would love to hear it.
Well, the straight answer to your question is no. We invite everybody. If you could be on anybody's flower, anybody's system, and join our Zoom call. We open the Zoom call up to everybody who wants to be there. And we also have a Facebook group that's open to other groups that are flowers on. They're not direct to me, like Arden said. She started with us, but now she has her own group, and that's great because anyone can expand this conversation. Should do it, right? We got to reach the masses as quickly as possible. So it doesn't matter who, how, but the sooner that they do get into Sou, the better it will be for them. And one of the questions, you know, one of our newest members came out was she's very shy and she calls herself an introvert, but she came out with a great tagline that we're now all adopting. Do you Sou? That's a question she sends out in a text, and it opens up a ice-breaking moment for people to ask. Well, yeah, I'm already involved with that, or I've already had 15 people that came to me, I'm not interested, or the other one, which is big, which is what she jumps in, which is, I don't know what that is. And then it opens up for her to share our video, and then she sends a video, and then they come to our Zoom call. They get their questions answered, they become a fire. Or they're a no, and we send them back to wherever they were doing before. So that's one way we've engaged people. In other ways, we really are committed to them knowing, you know, first of all, you already know 2 people. You came into the earth with 2 people. So if they're still with you, that's at least 2 people you know. If you have brothers and sisters, that's 2 people you know. If you have a best friend and they have a best friend, that's 2 people you know. So when people say, I don't know nobody, that's not the accurate truth. So we get them present to how many people they really do know and tell them, look, just share the video, then bring them to a Zoom call. We'll get their questions answered. Get them started. They'll either be a yes or a no. And, you know, if they're a yes, great. We'll get them on the flower. And if they're a no, we'll let them go back to doing what they do. That's our system in a very, like, I don't know how long it took me to share that. That is our system.
In a nutshell. All right. So, Arden, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what John's saying about being comfortable about going outside of who you know, because I think sometimes it's the people we love and care about, you know, we want them to have this opportunity, and those may be the people who are going to be most resistant or fearful, or, you know, so being comfortable going outside of your comfort zone when you are communicating with people. And I just wanted to add to, how do you find your place? That cooperative economics means collective effort, so, it's that community, that tribe that you can, that you can connect with. So as you're receiving these invitations or seeking invitations, accept them for the sake of being able to go in and what I'm getting to is asking questions beyond the basics related to just, I think most of us, our questions are limited at the gift and how do we get it in and how do we get it back? And you're not asking questions about, okay, what else is, I hear us saying that it's work. What's the work? Okay, and then people might limit that to, finding, your 2 fires. But what about managing? This stuff is not staying organized, by itself. So what might become my responsibilities in this? What type of guidelines do you have in place for, any of your concerns you have? Like if you have a concern, the answer might need to go beyond, basically what the system could provide and see what the group's guidelines are for addressing things like that. So just, participate, get involved. And, as I was saying before, the same way I seek a doctor, I pretty much, I treat everything like that. If it's a large sum involved in my family's economic output, then I'm looking at 3 and getting an estimate. You know what I mean? I'm getting 3 contractors to come in and give us an estimate. I'm gonna look at 3 computers or air conditioners and we're gonna compare what they offer, what it do, how much it costs, and then you make a decision. Don't treat your Sou Sou community any different.
I love that. Yes, thank you so much for that, Arden. That was wonderful. So one of my, I guess is going to be kind of like one of my last questions before we get into the Q&A with everybody who has joined is, what are some of the generational barriers with accessing a Sou Sou? Because now that it's moved to more of a digital era, do you see that there is kind of a chasm, hard for people who maybe used to be involved with Sou Sous, basically being involved with the current Sou Sous because they are more digital in terms of online and things like that and how you engage with them. Arden, if you could please speak to that.
We've had situations where people express, the most recent example I heard, a younger person, woman who were, familiar with the technology, was going to go to the elders or the not so technologically savvy people and bring them to the Zoom call she was, attending, or, you may have to go and help out with their downloading of the apps for the sending and receiving of gifts. That's where you may have to take on the role of managing a flower for them so that, you can, assist with maintaining their communications. So the technology piece, I think, is huge for those who, one, don't have access, whether economically or, not interested or don't know how. And then the older generation who, they do things old school. There's still money in the shoebox under the mattress, going to the bank. I talked to an older gentleman who was really concerned about, his bank account and how would that happen. And, he wanted to know if it could happen with a money order, or he trusts me. He was like, well, can you just handle it for me? And I'm like, well, now you want me to receive your money and get you your money, so we have to think about that and be open to the different solutions to assist people who might be interested. And, it means functioning like a community. You have to go and do and be and assist in the way that works for whoever, is coming to you for that help.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, because I get a little concerned because everybody's just kind of not up on this whole digital era thing. So thank you so much for your answer. Now,
but you know what, Empress, and the other reality is that it's not for everybody. The decision could be, that's not for me. That's the other thing we have to respect too. Nothing is for everybody, so people have to know their limitations themselves.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Because, and that's when we talk about energy, if you know that this is not for you, don't even try it, because you can then in turn actually change the energy for other people who might be interested in joining, but now you're a barrier because they're coming to you, and now, you're putting out an energy that actually blocks them from being able to take advantage of something that's really going to be good for them. So if it ain't for you, just suggest someone who is actually involved, or maybe an architect or whatever, who may be a better resource for folks who want to be a part of a Sou Sou and this cooperative economic platform. Please and thank you.
Yeah, I know where John stands, but Dadrian, have you had the story? Well, I have my gift, but I don't have fires, or I don't want to even deal with bringing in two people. Well, I know in me and John's world, that's a no. You're a no. Like, you're a no, so.
You have to be willing to participate fully, it's not like a halfway kind of thing. So, they're not really, it's not for them. Like you said, it's not for you.
But if I can just add around the generational conversation, because the generations go multiple ways, right? There's, we spoke to the older generation, but there's also a younger generation that, they're not Zooming, they're TikToking, right? So vehicles that we use, when you create, and again, I'm going to keep harping back to this conversation. The system's created so that it could be available to the masses of people, right? Not everyone is going to be, not everybody drives a car, not everybody catches buses, but mass transportation is created so you can get the mass amounts of people, right? So if you just want, friends and family, that's a tight-knit group that you work with, those people, you love them, great. That's one group of people you'll Sou Sou with. But if you're into like maxing out what the law allows you to receive in gifts, like $11,580,000 in your lifetime, then you actually have to be really clear that what you're doing is to reach the masses, and whatever vehicles bring the masses of people in is what's going to have them join you. And so, there are different ways for people to Sou Sou. My mom doesn't need to do a darn thing in my Sou Sou. Her gifts go from me to her because that's how it would go anyway, right? Right. She didn't have to bring two people. She didn't have to gift. That's my job. I'm her son. I take care of her, right? Okay. So that's where people have to really start to recognize that if they are who they really say they are, they'll do what's responsible for whoever they say they want to do it for. And if you have older folks and you want to make it so that they have a gift that comes to them every month, $3,500, then set up their accounts, do all the work that it requires, build their flowers for them. So all they need to do is that money can just come the way they're normally used to getting it, which is in their bank account. If that's what they're comfortable with, then you just make sure your sou-sous drops it into their Zelle account. So it's more than one way, and it's all different ways, but they should all line up to what is going to make the biggest difference for the most amount of people.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you did touch on that, because you're absolutely right. Like, you know, sometimes you do have to help certain folks bridge the gap, all depending on what your relationship is with them. So absolutely. And I want to talk a little bit about sponsorship, because I think it's a very important topic. And when we talk about trust and things like that, and doing what needs to be done, I was offered sponsorship, which I was very grateful for. Now all I have to do is just bring my 2 people. So basically, anybody, well, you know what, Dadrian, would you mind speaking to the concept of sponsorship, what that looks like, and how you determine if you want to sponsor someone and how that works?
Sure. For me, I definitely want my family to benefit from this, and I trust my family. So for one cousin, I offered to give, put up the 500, since I've already benefited from the sou-sous. I loaned her the 500 to get started, and when I want her to benefit. I know that the system works. So when she brings her 2 people in, I'll help her learn, and once she gets into the water, then she can re-gift me the 500. That's just an option that I decided to venture into, because I want my family to benefit. I trust her, and the system works so that if she does her part, I know that I'll be getting my repayment. So that wasn't offered in the presentations that I participated in. I just know that it works, and so I was willing to do that because I want her to benefit from that. So that's what I have done as far as sponsorship in my participation.
We call that a short-term gift.
Okay.
What'd you say, John?
We call that a short-term gift.
Okay, short-term gift. Okay.
Everything, this is where language, like Arden said, is absolutely critical, because any other words you use, payment, loan, those are all either a taxable, or it could either be if it's a taxable event, or it's going to be a non-taxable event, if anyone's tracking, right? So if it's a gift, right? If you have an investment, you're paying taxes, dividends, whatever. If you are getting paid at a job, you're paying taxes, right? If you got a loan, you're paying interest. If you're giving a gift, who gets taxed on that? If it's a gift, there are no taxes. There's no taxable event. So again, language is important. I just shared with a group of people in our group today that even now in my business, I'm now shifting from my clients paying me like they used to as a client to gifting me, because I'm committed that all the revenue that comes to me now is inside of that structure of 11,580,000 in gifts. I'm actually committed that all money that comes to me is now a non-taxable, and it could be reportable, but right now, non-taxable, non-reportable is the words of the day. And a sou-sous is a vehicle for non-taxable, non-reportable gifts to be provided to each and every person. So our language has to continue to be that, because if anyone asks, well, how did you get this money? It was a gift. It's always been a gift. I didn't expect anything in return. They gave it to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely, that makes sense. But do you consider the term, how do you feel about the term sponsorship? Because that's what I use initially, but I don't know in terms of legally what that means in terms of taxing and, things like that. So gift,
again,
you feel like it's
anything other than gift, I'm like anything. When I say anything, that includes anything other than gift. So if you use sponsorship, there's a sponsorship on the stadiums downtown Philadelphia. There's sponsorship for people who do advertising on TV. They pay for that service. It is a taxable event to whoever gets that. See, if anyone asks the question, not saying that they will, right? But if anyone had to go back and track Well, I saw you got sponsored here. Did you record that? No, I didn't. Why not? Well, I didn't know I had to. Well, that's, ignorance is not, available to people in the law. You just because you're ignorant of the law doesn't mean you're not held accountable for it. So our job, and why I keep saying it, is that if you only use one word, then there's no gray area at all. It's a short-term gift. You can give it back if you choose. If not, I gave it to you. It's a gift.
Okay. All right. I love that. So it seems like across the Sou Sou world, that we should be using the term gift, whether it be short-term gift in general, just use that term so that, we stay away from all this other legal jargon and all this other stuff, and responsibility. I love that. So we should all be using that. That should be language that's used across all Sou-Sous, gift, or short-term gift. Thank you so much for that. We're gonna, I think this is a good time to start getting, oh yes, I'm sorry, go ahead, Arden, yes.
Just really quickly, I think, and I'm not sure, and I think you've created something that I'll now add to my daily research, but the sponsorship, it may be a charitable event for the, typically in the business world, that's what's happening. It could be a charitable event with even like the gifts. The reporting comes from the person giving it, not receiving it. So I just want to say that in terms of like the, the tax administrative piece of it. And my experience, in my opinion, I think, the topic that we're talking about and calling sponsorship at this point is also a private matter. So I think that's something that, in my experience, would happen is circumstantial between me and the individual in that position. And then, how they'll operate in the Sou-Sou the way they should operate in the Sou-Sou.
I see.
That type of conversation would be a private matter between me and whoever needs that assistance from me.
I like that. I like that attitude, that how you separate the two. Whatever, like you say, my private conversation is with whomever wants to sponsor me or whatever it may be, that has nothing to do with how we operate within the Sou-Sou itself. Like we can use the term gift within the context of the Sou-Sou when it comes to anybody asking questions.
I don't need to know that I don't need to know where your gift source came from.
Right.
We don't need to know that,
Right. I like that you've made that specification. Thank you so much for that, for clarifying that. Because I think that it's true. It really just depends on your relationship with whomever it is you're dealing with, whatever language you're using. That has nothing to do with how legally you all are operating with one another.
Yeah, because on the phone, you're going to be like, girl, can I borrow this money real quick? Like, exactly. You know what I mean? And then you're going to come into the Sou-Sou and you're going to do what the Sou-Sou do.
Right,
so,
right. Yeah. I got you. And I think that that's important for whomever becomes an architect or whatever it may be, to kind of know the differentiation between the two. So I love that you talked about that. So we're gonna, unless somebody else, either any one of you all has anything else that you want to add to this conversation that you feel like we did not cover, we're gonna go into the Q&A. Does anybody else have anything to add?
No.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna go into the Q&A. I just want to let everybody know that Arden, Dadrian, and John are all available and have spaces for folks to join their Sou-Sous. They are an architect in their own right, no matter who brought them in. If you have your two people or this is something that you're interested in, you need to reach out to either three of them and get yourself started. Like, get yourself making this money and building some generational wealth for yourself, your family, and things like that. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go into the Q&A, but also in the chat, what I'm gonna do is I would like for, once the Q&A is done, each of our architects to put where they can be found on social media, or how you would like to be contacted in general. I'm also going to be sharing information in relation to how you can join the Yananomics Podcast Society, because we are on Facebook. We have a group on Facebook as well. I have a website, so I want for everybody to know that if you have a business or anything like that, we're a platform that you can advertise with. So let's go ahead and get into the Q&A. Is there anybody that has any questions or needs any clarification for anything that they've heard so far? Don't be shy. This is the time to do it. This is the time. We're ready, and you know, the people that I have invited here today, they want to answer your questions. They want to clarify anything, and so please, like I said, don't be shy. Speak up if you have a question. I know sometimes we wait for someone else to ask a question before we ask a question, but if you have a question, go ahead and ask it. Madeline, you have any questions? I'm gonna start calling out y'all names now. That's what's gonna happen. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't. I don't. Actually, I'm gonna get back with the person that invited me to this.
Okay.
This thingy right here.
Yes.
My
So
cousin.
do you feel like this was very informative in that now it helped you to kind of make that decision?
It's for me. It's really informative in the sense that I'm having to process so much information at one time. However, it did cover all of my questions, but yet again, I still need to like just put them in some type of organizational form to help me direct my steps. You know, what do I do next? In making my decision.
Absolutely.
It was very informative, and I am looking forward to sitting in on more of your. Is this a podcast?
It is.
Okay.
This is a podcast. Yeah. I have other podcasts where we talk about episodes and we talk about building generational wealth through gold and home ownership. We talk about natural childbirth and living holistically. So there's a lot of things that, you know, we do discuss in relation to the podcast that I think that that's relevant to Black people overall and in general. That's our goal. That's our target community, are folks who identify as Black. You know, we're really about inspiring, educating, and things like that. So yeah, definitely do stay tuned in with what we're doing. I'm about to call the next name. All right, Roxana Alexander, do you have any questions or is there anything you would like to add?
No, I'm good and excited and encouraging people to get on board.
Yes, thank you so much for that.
Thank you for joining, Ms. Roxana.
Yes, yes.
Jennifer Curry.
Hi.
Hello.
I don't really have any questions, but I would like to know if each, I guess, interviewee could discuss how they keep, how they work within their groups as far as communication and keeping everyone a tight-knit community.
I love that.
Well, that's a great
question.
For me, our group, we use the Telegram app to stay in touch, and each person that's on the flower is in a chat with those members on their flower. Every day we go in, we share positive messages, we give updates from the community at large when training meetings are going to be happening, and we just share information that comes from either the community at large or from another flower that's helpful. We just stay in touch by the Telegram app. That's the way we stay in touch. I'm not sure about others.
We use Zoom, email, text, phone. You know, we try to listen to what is that's coming through for people and be able to provide what it is that they need, because Zoom doesn't work for everyone. Some people may not have email, going back to the older generations with the technology. Some people prefer texting. So, you know, whatever communication mechanisms and vehicles are available, I think they're all covered. And then I think each group, has, how they work within the group for organization is, might differ, but, that's an administrative side that comes with your participation in the school that you can learn about more.
Thank you so much. John, did you have anything you'd like to add in terms of how you stay in contact with your folks?
Well, I think Arden hit the nail on the head. I'm Malcolm. By any means necessary, right? So and it's all generational as well, right? There are people using WhatsApp, right? There are people using GroupMe. There's people, FaceTime. I mean, you name it. Whatever is going to allow people, but the Zoom call is our main vehicle for bringing our communities together. So everybody meets, like I said, we do our Zoom calls 4 times a day, 7 days a week. I have one starting in 47 minutes. And so in that respect, that gives people access to, every single person that wants to plug in when they can plug in. So it's a fit in, get it in when you fit it in, right? And there's no excuses for people who work jobs during the day, midday, afternoon, evening. We're on a Zoom at any time when people are off. They're going to get an opportunity to listen to and be in connection with community. So we use every means that's possible. If a smoke signal would get somebody to join the Sou Sou, we'd probably use that still.
Whatever works, right?
We're equal opportunity Sou Sou. We don't want to limit anybody, right?
Right.
If there's people that still use smoke signals, we're gonna set it up. Okay.
That is too funny. Glow, do you have any questions or anything you would like to add? All right, we'll move on to Raquel. If you have anything that you would like to ask or anything you would like to add about whether or not your questions were answered in this, how you feel about today's conversation, whatever it may be, please do share.
Hi, everybody. I thought it was a beautiful conversation. I've been doing Sou-Sous also with John since April, and it is an amazing opportunity to build generational wealth, teach young people about money and investing in themselves and others, and sharing resources. So if it's something that you're considering, I just strongly urge you to show up to one of our Zoom sessions and learn a little bit more and participate with us. It's a fabulous thing for everyone to partake in. I'm complete.
Thank you so much for that, Raquel. It looks like Madeline has something she wants to say. I was gonna go to the next, but it looked like somebody raised their hand. If you raise your hand, go ahead and speak.
Miss Yana, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for having the opportunity to share in this podcast. But now I'm gonna sign off, I guess,
Okay.
and then get back with y'all on the other available dates that you have. And I'm really looking forward to becoming a part of this module thing here, speaking on. So I'll get with Jessica, who invited me, and then she'll be able to point me back to y'all with whatever more insight I may need.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Madeline. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you for coming. Have a good afternoon.
Yes.
You too, all of you.
Or good evening. You're in the evening now, right?
Yes, I'm in Lafayette, Louisiana.
Oh, wow. Look at that. We got people from everywhere up in here.
Yeah.
I
So again,
love
it was real nice. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to hooking back up with you guys.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Good evening to you.
Have a great rest of the evening over there. Stacy?
Hi there. Thank you so much for the presentation and the general dialogue with everything. I definitely appreciated you taking the time to do so. I don't have any questions. You've actually already answered the only question that I had, which was how do I find your podcast? And you've already posted that in the chat. So I'm good.
I did. Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Stacy. Okay, so we have Maureen.
I'm sorry, I don't have any question. Very good information. I appreciate you asking me, but I'm good.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Sure, not a problem.
Yes. Okay, so Joy.
No, I do not actually have any questions. What a beautiful platform that you do have, and I certainly appreciate the panelists and being so forthright and honest and open with all of you all's experiences with the Sou Sou. I think I really feel encouraged, not only because we're gathering together from different communities, how we can really reach out into our own communities and truly make a difference with this process and sharing and keeping the idea of this is sharing. This is not trying to get people to come along with us. This is sharing this so it can become a solution to their issues and to their problems, and be a blessing to them. So I thank all of you and thank you for laughing.
Thank you so much for that, Joy. Much appreciated. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon, or wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, or afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. Angel, did you have anything you would like to share? Did you find this conversation helpful? Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I did enjoy listening to everything that was shared. Some things were things I've already heard, which was good, just to help my memory, because I'm pretty much new at this. So yeah, thank you just for having the podcast.
You're welcome. And thank you for joining us. All right. Well, it looks like we have covered everyone, and no one has any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, because the Yananomics Podcast does have ad sponsors. And if you have a business and you would like to sponsor a space, an ad with the Yananomics Podcast, I do encourage you to do so. We really go hard for the Black businesses that we support. I make sure that I share your brand with folks in this platform, on platforms like this, as well as all across social media. So I'm going to go ahead and get into our ad sponsors before we close out.
Thank you, Ayana, for having us. This was wonderful, and job well done. If you have no questions, that means you have done. That was great.